Hello, and welcome to a next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa and spa life, the SPA, is for seek power always, to always be able to reach deep inside you and reach that power that you have within you. I am so thrilled to introduce our special guest today, Aime Hutton. Aime is a true miracle survivor. Being born 3 months early was only the start of her challenges that Aime has overcome in her life. She hails from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and today Aime is a girls empowerment leadership and trainer who's on a mission to have 1 million girls live their real brave selves. I love this so much, so in alignment with standing in your power. She does this by training women to work with girls, covering themes that are often not taught in schools. How many times have we looked at, I wish I was trained this in school, and just so many life skills that we want to jump into. So Aime is also an international speaker and writer, and she shares hope, healing, inspiration, and motivation that she hopes that audiences can be their real brave selves as well. Aime, welcome to the show.
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so thrilled to get into this conversation. You and I got to meet in person several times through affiliations with eWomen Network, as well as me speaking in Calgary. And, you know, I'd like to jump in with something really special that you just recently did with the Uncommon Women Black and White Photo Gallery. Tell us, like, how did you get chosen for that? How did you choose your word? And just tell a little bit about that, because I think this is so in line with, you know, showing up as your brave self. This was a really brave act that you did.
For sure, yeah. So the Uncommon Woman is a movement that was started by Marlo Ellis. And because of her story of pain through struggle to be triumphant, she was like, in a Facebook tribe group, she posted, you know, if you want to share a story, please do. And she wasn't getting any traction. So then she sat with it for a while and posted a black and white selfie with the word courage in the group. And then the floodgates opened, apparently, and women just started submitting and showing these pictures, black and white. And I joined the tribe in February of 2019, this year. And I saw the post. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to do something. What can I do? And because, like many women, we've overcome many different things. And I am also a survivor of emotional dating violence. And I thought, well, maybe I could do that word. And then I thought, no, other women, because it's 1 in 3 women that experience violence. So I know that possibly be covered a lot. So I dove into my health stories and I thought, what could I do that way? And I live with something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which 1 in 10 women live with in Canada and the United States. And actually September is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome Awareness Month. So this is perfect. And so I thought, what's a word that would represent everything I've been through with it and still going through? And the word forgive came to me because part of the story is in 2004, I had a emergency surgery to remove a 13 centimeter diameter, so large grapefruit size cyst from my left ovary and fallopian tube. They were also dead. And at that moment, I was told I could either never have or really strongly just don't want me to have children. So I had to forgive my body, forgive myself for this not being able to have children. And then how I did it was I lied on my bed sideways and wrote forgive on my stomach in lipstick, took a selfie, uploaded it to the group, shared my story of forgive and my body and issues I've been having. And the comments I got were just amazing. And Marlo herself was like, Aime, I can't wait to see this picture blown up and part of our black and white gallery. Yeah. So that's how it started. It's about forgiving. And then there's women who maybe want to speak and are afraid to, or want to speak and don't know what word to choose. So the gallery as a whole was about women sharing a story without sharing a story.
Got it. Got it. So what's changed for you since you've done that? I mean, that, when we do big, brave things out there, especially, when you're showing parts of your body, there can be a lot of things that pop up for you emotionally, how it's going to be received by other people, all of those things. Did some of those things actually come up for you? And if so, how did you move past them?
Yeah, it did come up. I was like, wow, I'm writing like on my stomach. Like that's an area I, I don't show to public, really. So it was okay, but that's where my body trauma, a lot of it is from my stomach and lower stomach area. So it's the forgiving of that. And when women looked at the images, like all of the images, the women there and the men, because men came to the event as well, and they were so moved. They were like, oh my gosh, these are powerful stories, and they could relate whatever they were going through to what they saw on the walls. There were other images about a friend of mine. She had the word hush written across her mouth, and she was kidnapped when she was 6 by her father, and she was told, don't speak about it. So right. It's just so powerful, and it was an amazing day.
Yeah. No, I love that so much. I'd love for our listeners, like as you're listening to this, I mean, we all have a story to share, and there's times where we give our power away and there's times that we stand in it. What would be your word? Like, what's a word that reflects your own experience? I'd love for them to put in the comments, if you're listening to this on the podcast, in the show notes, or, just coming back around, maybe in YouTube or iTunes, there's a way to comment on that. And I love, that's one of the things I love about the podcast community is people really stepping in and sharing as part of the experience that you're sharing here as well. And I know that, we all have these different journeys where we've had different times where we've been, disempowered and times that we've been empowered. And I know you have 2 specific, situations where you've had that experience. I know you alluded to it a little bit here in the beginning about being in an abusive relationship. Can you talk about the disempowering moments for you, and then what allowed you to take control back in your life and to turn that around?
Yeah. So the one story, yes, the dating violence story, my boyfriend never hit me. He choked me once, and he wanted to know where I was going, who I was going to be with. And, there was a time where I went off campus with a group of friends and came back, and he was very angry at me, and he thought I was dead in the ditch because he didn't see me go to bed the night before or leave the building in the morning, because I lived on campus. During university, I lived on campus. So how I got through that and how I realized that this really wasn't something I should be in, this relationship, was I was actually out for lunch with my parents, with my mom. And my mom said to me, Amy, I'm worried about you. I don't like what I've been hearing about this boyfriend. And that was the flip that I needed, that I was able to leave him, although he then stalked me afterwards, and he would show up different places. So I just had to keep going and let others help me through that whole ordeal, and even into adults after university life, the healing process of let others help me. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to this. And, when I was actually, reading and talking to you about what this experience was like for you, I've just recently shared, I was in an abusive relationship for many years, and the same, almost exact same thing happened where, a lot of it was just emotional abuse. But there was one time where he put, his hands around my neck, and there was a choking kind of experience. And I'm just like, it's so wild to me that, we both consider ourselves very strong women, and, things unfold, they don't just happen like, the first day you're dating someone, right? There's certain things where you feel safe, and then, there's like little things that can just chip away at that. And so, and I don't know if you had this experience about just feeling a little bit isolated from some of your regular support systems, because when you are isolated, then you don't feel you've got people to surround yourself with. Was that anything that you felt in this process? Did you feel isolated?
Yeah, I remember another time where some of the girls were like, "Hey, Amy, we're going to the cafeteria for dinner or lunch or whatever. Do you want to come with?" And my boyfriend was like, "Yeah, no, you need to stay here." And another time, he and I were out off site or off campus for the morning and came back, and it was Easter weekend, and he really wanted to learn how to swim. And my former years in high school, I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor. So I knew the schedule of the pool probably would be closed on Easter weekend, because I know ours was when I was in my town I grew up in. And so I said to my boyfriend, I'm like, let's lie down and have a nap, and, just we'll see. And then when I got up, I woke up first and went out of the room, and he's like, he finally woke up, and he's like, Amy, I need you today. I want you. Like, you need to stay with me. And at that moment, I was like, oh, I feel caged in. I feel trapped. I couldn't go and do things I wanted to do without him, or without him even knowing. Right. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, and that's for our listeners too. If you're starting to see something that you're recognizing, that you're feeling caged in, or you're feeling trapped, or you feel like something's off, have a lifeline, have some, build some community, even have just that one friend that you can have a conversation with that allows you to have a different perspective. Because sometimes when we're just hearing things in our own head, it can feel very disempowering, and we aren't sure exactly what to do about that. So thank you, Amy, for sharing that, and what, and how you were able to move through that, and, having your mom, come in your space. I mean, people don't always listen to the people closest to them. And it's so great to have those kind of relationships to be able to do that. So you had one other thing around finances, and I know finances can be, challenging for some people. And, what happened with that, and how did you move through that as well?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the reminder. I'm like, what other story? Yeah, that one. So in 2014, my parents came to me and said, hey, Amy, grandma's house has sold. We want to help you get your own place. Have you gone to look for a pre-approved mortgage? And I was like, no. And probably if I did, I'd be laughed at by the banks. And my dad said, what's going on? And I finally had to come clean and say, I'm in trouble. I'm in debt, $29,000. And that was all consumer credit card debt. And talk about feeling disempowered and not knowing, what to do or how to do it, like how to get out of it. And my dad said with love, he's like, Amy, you got yourself into this mess, you get yourself out. So a friend of mine, she said, well, reach out to, there's something here in Alberta called the Credit Counseling Society of Alberta. And she said, call them. So I went and called them and went for a couple of meetings. And I remember sitting in the office with this counselor, and I started crying. I'm like, I'll be strong. And then 2 sentences into my story, I start crying. And he said to me, he's like, Amy, if it's stressful for you, it's stressful. Acknowledge it. It's okay, to be stressed about this. So we worked together and with money and budget and stuff. And fast forward 4.5 years later, January 2019, I finished paying off all of my debt. So
congratulations on that. I mean, there's people that go their whole life with debt, and I love how you point out that you asked for help. I mean, how many of us have been in situations where it feels like there's no way out, and it just keeps accumulating, and, we don't share it with somebody else, and we don't have a plan to actually have that happen. And, I love how part of your mission is to have women that actually support girls in learning things that they don't learn in school. And finances is one of those things that typically people don't have in their curriculum, of just the day-to-day things about how to set a budget, about, how to, really plan for certain things, and how to, there are certain kinds of debt through business and things that are what they kind of call good debt. But, the consumerism and things that, do we really need all the different things that are out there and to have support in that. So, again, for our listeners who may be finding yourself, in debt, and there's a lot of people who are, there are so many different channels that you can call and have support and make those shifts. And I think what's so important about your story is that you just made a decision, right? That was being really courageous to be like, even though it may feel scary and you had an emotional moment, around it, maybe you had several moments around it, because you're having to make shifts in your behavior and shifts and changes. And that's such an empowering thing to do, is to realize where you need to make those changes and how you can do that. So congratulations to you in making that shift and the freedom that you've created now for yourself. So that's awesome. So what is why are you on this mission to empower 1 million girls to live their real brave self? Like what led you to that, and why is this your mission?
Yeah, so another story to share with your listeners. And it starts off with a statistic, and it's a sad statistic across Canada, that every 7 minutes a child is being bullied on the school ground.
Wow.
And even just to sit here and say that and pause for a minute, I'm like, how many schools are even just in my city here? And then every 7 minutes, a child is being bullied. So, school is supposed to be a happy time and a place where you learn and do things. And I was happy grades 1, 2, 3. And I had those 1 or 2 first day school jitters and nervousness of, who am I going to see? Who's my teacher? Who am I going to sit with? Those type of nervousness. And they always dissipate throughout going into the rest of the school year. However, for me in grade 3, I was starting to have some struggles. The teachers noticed I was not advancing fast enough that I should be with my peers. And I wasn't catching the reading or the spelling and the grammar and the math, like those core subjects. And they had a meeting with my parents and the guidance counselor and the principal and said, we want to hold Aime back and put her into special education. So back in the 80s, there was separate classrooms where if you had special needs, you went to, and you weren't integrated into the rest of the school like it is today in 2019. And my parents were like, no, please don't do that. Amy's been through some challenges in her life. Yeah, we know that. But putting her into special ed it's just wrong idea. Don't do it. So hold her back, yes, but pull her out of the classroom from time to time to work on those, basic math skills or the reading or the spelling. So I had to repeat grade 3. I failed grade 3. And that's when the bullying started. I, would go into school the first day of grade 3, the second time, and I had to make new friends all over again. And I had to, figure out everything. And that's when I started to get the name calling. Like I was called stupid, retarded, ugly, loser, and dumb, and many other words. But those are the 5 that kind of stick in my head. Right. And I was called that every day of the school year from grades 3 to grade 8. My school went from kindergarten to grade 8. So between grades 3 and grade 8, I was called all these names. And I was getting really nervous, and I didn't want to be at school. And in grade 7, it got worse. I didn't think it could get worse, but it did. I was in it was gym class, and I was in the locker room getting changed into my gym clothes. And one of the girls in grade 8, because I was in a grade 7-8 split, the girl came up behind me, grabbed me by my bra strap, and flung me around the room. And I went flying into the locker. And I was crying, and I was battered and bruised, and I didn't know who did it. All I could hear, Diane, was the cackling and the laughter of everybody else. No one stood up to help me. No one said, hey, stop that, or hey, that's wrong. And then no one came to me after. None of the peers, none of the other girls in the class came to me after and sat with me and said, hey, are you okay? When the teacher came in, she's like, what happened? And I didn't know what happened. I knew what happened, but I didn't at the same time.
Right.
And she's like, just get outside. And I didn't say a word because I didn't want to get into more trouble with these girls and being pushed again or pulled again. So in grade 8, we talked about this earlier, I chose to be different. And I was even teased and picked on because I wanted to be a lifeguard. And I remember being in class one day and going, oh, I got swim class tonight, like just vocally said it out loud. And one of the boys was like, oh, I bet you're in tadpoles or you're in like minnows or starfish, like the little class, age classes. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a lifeguard. And the kids are like, oh, we'll come and, tease you and, we'll come and not listen to you. And I said, actually, you will have to listen to me. And another outlet of mine all the way through has been being in Girl Guides or Girl Scouts for the States. And there's a day where we wear our uniforms to school proudly to say, hey, I am a Girl Guide, I'm proud of it, and so on and so forth. The kids picked on me then. And I remember just losing my cool. Like finally it like blew up. And I yelled. I remember yelling in the hallway. I'm like, at least I have somewhere to go and people to see after school. I don't just hang around at the mall anymore. And a teacher came out of the room because the kids were dumbfounded, but then they started laughing. But another teacher came out. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, blah. Like I was just so like frustrated. And then also in grade 8, though, I'm like, I need to somehow make a change. Like I need to figure something out. So as we said earlier about letting people help me, I let the teachers help me with my studies. I would ask for help. I would get help from them. I had also teachers, my swim instructor was one of them that believed in me. I let others believe in me and I had to believe in myself that yes, I can be a lifeguard. And then the third thing I do, and it's actually the 3 things I still do today, and it's I just had to keep going. I had to put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Right.
So that's why I'm so passionate about having our next generation of girls, our future leaders, live their real brave self and know their worth and happiness and courage and all that.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm sorry, Aime, that you had that experience growing up and, that you have, you didn't just suppress it, that you've actually made it part of your mission to help other girls because you intimately know what that feels like. What would you, like knowing this experience that you've had, first of all, did your parents know about your experience or did you kind of hide it from them and try and just kind of get by? And what would you do differently?
I think my parents knew something was up. Like I don't remember outwardly saying that, little Sally is calling me names. I don't remember doing that.
Right.
And then what would I do differently? I don't think I would, looking back at it, yeah, maybe I could have stood up for myself a bit more. I actually went to a teacher and said, I need some help. Yet with bullying, because, back in the 80s, we didn't call it bullying. We just called it part of life and part of school. So I don't know if I would do anything different because it was a different era. It was the 80s.
Got it. So what do you, for the girls that you're encountering now, are they more open about bullying and do you really share that as part of the teaching as far as, what they can do to, stand in their power at a young age and to, it looks like one of the things that you did was you asserted your voice. Like it got to a point of, you had enough is enough for you. But what are you doing for girls to really encourage them to just assert their voice and to be more confident and to have the tools to actually deal with this? Because this is becoming more of an epidemic of more children are exposed to this.
Yeah. So there's something I teach when I go in to do workshop, and it's also something I teach to the women who will work with girls, and it's the acronym SALT, S-A-L-T. And S stands for stop. Stop what you're doing, stop moving, and look at the other person. A stands for ask. Ask questions. So for example, if someone says, I hate your shoes, stop. Ask a question back. Well, why do you hate my shoes? And then L stands for listen. Listen to each other's answers. So if I were to say, I hate your shoes, and stop, listen, and then ask, well, why do you hate my shoes? And if the answer comes back is, oh, I don't like pink, and say the shoes are pink. And then you talk. T is talk. You have a conversation, you have a dialogue, and it will help diffuse arguments. It will help diffuse communication situations. And this tool can be used actually, not just in a bullying situation, but it can be used anywhere where you feel there's a conflict coming or you sense that conflict.
Right. Right. I love that. I mean, it really does come down to communication and being able to, look someone in the eye, because a lot of times bullying is that they're hoping they're going to, just intimidate you and not have any kind of response. And it's a way to stand in your power and actually speak your truth. And, speaking of that, one of the things we talk about how we design our life and how we consciously create things, and talk a little bit about how you speak your truth. And you mentioned about how, even if your voice shakes, tell me a little bit about that experience, about how you move through that, because, a lot of times it's been said that public speaking is like one of the most scariest things aside from death. And so, having the courage, right? There's a courage that happens, standing in your power to assert your voice. How is it that you, address or manage, the shakiness in your voice when you have something to say?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of the most recent time when I, speak my truth even when my voice shakes. Another story to share is in April, I finally made the decision and I chose that I'm tired of hiding and I don't want to hide anymore behind this mask. And the mask I was taking off in public first to my family and, through email and then in public, and sharing that I am part of the LGBT community, that I'm bisexual. And I literally was shaking when I was writing this email to my parents, and I was so afraid. What I did though was the thought of I'm tired of hiding. I need to live my real brave self and live my truth of who I am. And it took just some deep breaths, leaning on some women that I was in a coaching group with, strongly going, oh my gosh, I'm going to write this email tonight to my parents. And they're all like, yeah, you can do it. Like, we believe in you. We got you. We got your back. You can do this. So having supportive people, if you have to say something that really makes you shake and nervousness, having people around you that support you, and then just, there's that line, feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah.
Take a breath, and yeah, it could really be scary and crappy getting through it, but on the other end, on the other side, it's all roses and happy and everything. So
right. Well, first of all, congratulations for speaking your truth and standing in who you are. I know our listeners are probably wondering how was that received for your parents?
Yeah, my parents, they actually wrote back, yeah, we love you and we still accept you. And I had to giggle at one point because they said, we had a feeling a couple years ago that you might be, yet you would tell us when it was time, and I guess it's time. They were a little disappointed that, I had fear around it. I had fear around coming to them and sharing that I would share. And I was like, in my email, I even said that, I've accepted the fact that if you don't want to be around me, I've accepted that. And that made them sad. Yet I'm like, well, thank you. I love you. It's my truth though. And that's one thing I had to accept of all possibilities.
Right.
Because when some people come out as LGBT to family, they actually get cut off. Like, parents and family don't accept them and don't love them and so on and so forth. So I'm grateful that I had a positive experience, and I know it's not always that case.
Right. Well, and I love that you surround yourself with community, right? I mean, it does come back to that. Who is your tribe? Who are the people that are really surrounding you and supporting you to do that? And I think it's so important to create environments that actually supports you, whether it's your physical environment or your people, right? We talked about your financial environment. I mean, all these things we create, and we want to be able to have the people and the support and the mindset that actually allow us to live our most truth and to stand mostly in our power. And so one of the questions I like to ask my guests, because I do believe environment is so important, and is in our personal space. We react differently, we live differently in our bedroom versus our kitchen versus our office. What's your favorite room in your home and why?
Actually, I probably think I'm in it right now. I live in a 1-bedroom condo apartment. So over there is my bedroom. Like, you can kind of see part of my bed, but over on this side is my desk. And on the wall are different things that inspire me around my desk. On the actual desk too, I have cards with little motivational quotes and stuff. And that's where I get my inspiration to do what I do. And I have a beautiful window that I can look out and I see trees and the birds. And yes, there's another condo building across the way, yet it's just happy in the sun and I can watch the clouds come and go. So that's, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important for our listeners about what are we creating in our space. Like, I love that you've got these affirmations and you've got some outside nature that's showing in. And, it's important to really choose what kind of environments support us and to really lean into that. So we can always make even one little shift, and that makes a difference. So I love that. Now, I know you have a free gift for our audience as well. Would you like to share a little bit more about that and how people can stay in contact with you?
Yes. If memory serves me right, it is I call it a quick and dirty checklist. And yes. And what it is a document, a Word document about signs and symptoms and what to watch for in yourself, in others, about dating violence, about the emotional dating abuse situations that can be. So there's what to watch for in yourself, what to watch for in another, how to help another if they're going through it. And then there's actually even a small section about what to do if you are the one who's doing the abusing, and some tips in that respect. And it's a free gift that I will gladly send through email. And it's just a good little reminder. I've had women write back to me and say, this is so good. I've shared this with my daughter, or I've shared it with, my niece who's going off to university. Because some abuse you don't see, like you don't see the financial abuse. Or with the Black and White Gallery, the Uncommon Women Black and White Gallery, we were raising money for the Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter. And someone came in and even shared a bit of a story about there's some abusers that will actually lock the kitchen fridge and lock the cupboards and control food as a way of abuse.
Right. Well, I love that thank you for sharing that. And we'll put in the show notes how people can, get that. And, it's nice because sometimes in our own head, we think something's up, but it may be like, it's one thing and again, it's part of that isolation. But when there's other things that you kind of go, oh, there's this and this and this, and it starts adding up, then you can start looking at, okay, you know what, and this is where I can get some support. So, listeners, definitely grab this tool, whether this is it may be one of your best friends. This is a lesser talk about if you're actually the abuser. I mean, I just had Andrea J. Lee on the show who was sharing about a period of time where she learned abusive behavior in her family and started integrating that in her relationship and consciously made a shift of how she was going to be different. So, really it's important to have these kind of tools just so we can make these shifts, how we can improve ourselves to be able to just live our best lives and to, stand in our power. And, as you talk about being, your real brave self. So I want to thank you, Aime, so much for being on the show. And do you have any final words that you'd like to share with our audience?
A couple of things. So be okay with being yourself, being okay to speaking your truth and being who you are. That's one of the pillars with Inch by Inch Empowerment, my business. And the other two that go along with it is be brave and be bold. So be okay being brave, be okay being seen, whatever that looked like for you. If it's just a picture on a wall, the black and white gallery with a word across your body somewhere, that's brilliant. Or if you're actually sharing that story in public, whatever that is, be brave and be bold and stand up. When you see something wrong, please say something. I think Sandra Yancey mentioned it at some point this year when she was here in Calgary that, if you're seeing something or you're hearing something that you don't agree with and you actually don't say anything, you are part of the problem.
That is so true. I mean, you think about it that, you go back to your years when you were in school, that no one spoke up, no one did anything about that. And, you wonder now, do any of those girls actually think about their part in it and how they could do something different? And, it's just so important to be able to look at those things. So, thank you so much, Aime, for just, being on the show and sharing your journey and about women being bold and stepping into their power. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So listeners, for those of you, first of all, your time is the most precious asset. We so appreciate you being here with us and being part of the conversation. Let's continue that. If you're watching this or listening on either, YouTube or, even on Facebook, you're listening to anything, please put in the comments, what's the one thing that you took away being here today? And make sure that you grab Aime's gift. We'll have that into the show notes. And also, we will have in there too, I also have my free gift too of the Reset Your Power gift.com, and we'll get that to you as well. So just really take advantage of taking these gifts. Be part of the conversation. Please make sure that you subscribe and you rate and review. Rate and review is how we get it out into the community. We want to make sure this gets into the hands to share with so many people who are maybe feeling isolated. They're not standing in their power. They're not actually, feeling strong. And by getting these kind of messages out, it allows them to have those resources. So this is part of you being able to do your part and not standing by and not having resources that people can have to support them. So I just want to thank you for all things that you do. I know our audiences are action takers and that they really do want to make a difference in the world. So I just want to thank you all for being here. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. See ya.